Welcome to Insanity, or as we say, end-of-life vehicle. While the intentions behind the EU proposal are good, is there a chance that the regulation could wipe out the entire motor hobby in Europe? Is there cause for concern? According to the EU Commission, the automotive industry is one of the most resource-intensive sectors. The main aim of the proposal is to introduce requirements for circularity throughout the life cycle of new vehicles, from design and manufacturing to end-of-life management. Even though influential referral bodies have pointed out that there are too many ambiguities in the proposal, which could lead to very negative consequences for the Swedish automotive hobby, there are also those who argue that the concern is exaggerated. The national newspaper Expressen highlights Ragar Robin when he claims that Swedish politicians are exaggerating the threat.
There's no EU proposal stating that cars like these should be scrapped. It's bullshit. I think it's pretty lame when they bring up this car stuff, because they really don't know what they're talking about, you know? It's just sad. They're just scaring all these car enthusiasts with that language they're using. And that's not the language down in Europe. But Swedish politicians keep on going, trying to scare up this car crowd. And then they're trying to score points for being all for these cars instead. You know? So it's total bullshit. I know the dude who has the car, so he's gonna be bummed to hear that. And let me tell you, those old cars nowadays can even be made to look worn out. And that actually costs a lot of money too. These people just don't get it, you know? He has no clue what he's talking about. Nah, I didn't really get a straight answer, you know? I could tell he was hesitating himself, you know? And understood that I knew what I was talking about, you know?
One of the biggest commercial TV channels is interviewing an EU journalist about what they call the wacky EU questions.
There's a large and broad exception for what's called historical cars, so there's nothing new there to worry about. Additionally, since these cars are considered cultural heritage, and those who devote themselves to them are performing a cultural service for all of us, some extra protection has been added. There's a technical annex that's very tricky. I don't understand it. I'm sure Robin does.
I know what I'm talking about, you know?
Robin is right. There's no threat to our vintage cars.
Right now, we've raised maybe a few odd questions like that, but how does one navigate through this, Ylva? Because it's not entirely easy as a voter to actually know what's true and what's not in different claims that you hear.
One can have such a little test. Now, we have been in for 30 years, and we have seen threats against the cinnamon bun, and we have had EU threats against snuff, and we have seen EU threats against summertime, and EU threats against I don't know what else. And none of that has happened, right? The neighbor still snuffs and I eat cinnamon buns. So one can keep that in mind next time. One can think like this: how did it go with the cinnamon bun and the snuff and the kebab? Maybe I can sleep peacefully through this latest threat too.
What do you folks think? Should we grab a cinnamon bun and hit the snooze button? Leave a comment below. Or should we listen to those who really know something? Håkan Johansson, editor-in-chief at Wheels magazine, the leading Scandinavian publication in American cars. He's previously lived in the USA, where he's built cars for Moon, and now represents Moon while running Moon Eye's Garage Sweden, building both cars and motorcycles. He's one of Sweden's most respected figures in the car hobby, and he's worried. This is Peter Sundfeldt, a motor journalist, test driver, and also an appraiser for the prestigious Bill Webb Auctions. Seated on the far right is Bosse Car Dr. Andersson, a car builder and inspector for the Swedish Association of Vehicle Builders. And in the middle, we have Jan Tegt, an expert in vehicle regulations and standards at the Federation of Swedish Historic Vehicles. And these three guys, they're worried. And if they're worried, well, then I get worried too. The proposal states that cars should be kept in their original condition without significant alterations. What could that mean?
We know that when the EU worked on the inspection directive that came out in 2014, that's when this discussion also took place. Because they have this definition of a historic vehicle of interest in that regulation. And then they were talking about simple things like a Model T Ford, which, if painted today with a modern water-based paint instead of an old cellulose paint, wouldn't be considered of historical interest.
Officials enforce the law. If the law allows seizing cars or motorcycles, there will always be officials who do it. It's as simple as that, and it's already proven. The county deemed the vehicle to be classified as waste. The authorities' actions caused 5 years of uncertainty and legal costs. Business owner Jana Carlson, who imports cars from the USA, received a call from a customs official regarding 3 cars in a container. The official asked if he had a permit to import hazardous waste. Customs handed the case over to the County Administrative Board of Western Gotaland, where the department head and the environmental lawyer determined that the 3 vintage cars from 1959 should be considered hazardous waste and must be scrapped within 30 days. Jan took legal action and eventually got his cars back, but he feels it was an abuse of authority and a violation of his rights. Ann Dahlberg, county lawyer at the County Administrative Board, says, "We believe that the condition indicates that these are not vintage cars." Some folks see waste. Others see an opportunity to fulfill their dreams.